Today, we're diving into a really powerful story by Alphonse Daudet. It's all about what happens when a language, a culture, a whole way of life is just taken away overnight. This is our explainer on The Last Lesson.
Think about that for a second. It's a simple question, right? But it really gets to the heart of this story. Because, let's be honest, most of us take our language completely for granted. It's just there. But what if today was your very last chance to speak it, to hear it?
Okay, so to get this, the setting is absolutely key. We're in 1871. France has just lost a war to Prussia. And for the people living in these French districts, Alsace and Lorraine, their entire world is about to be flipped upside down. And we see it all through the eyes of a young schoolboy who has absolutely no clue that his life is about to change forever.
All right, let's get into it. Our story starts with a boy named Franz, and he's having one of those mornings. You know the feeling, right? That sense of dread. He's late for school, and he is totally, completely unprepared.
So yeah, he's late, he knows nothing about the lesson on participles he's supposed to have memorized, and frankly, everything outside the classroom looks way more interesting. The weather's nice, the birds are chirping, even the Prussian soldiers drilling in the field seem like a better option. He thinks about it, just skipping school altogether. But in the end, he resists that urge and heads to school anyway.
And this is where that historical context we talked about becomes so important. Remember, the Franco-Prussian War is over. France lost. And as a result, these two French regions, Alsace and Lorraine, have been handed over to Prussia. Now, this isn't just about changing a flag on a building. This is a huge, fundamental shift in identity for everyone living there. And it's about to hit home in Franz's little classroom.
So as Franz makes his way into town, his very ordinary, kinda crummy morning starts to feel, well, different. He starts picking up on these little clues that something isn't right. Something's definitely off.
First thing he sees, a crowd gathered around the town hall bulletin board. Now, for the past 2 years, that bulletin board has been nothing but bad news. Lost battles, draft notices, you name it. Then something else weird happens. The blacksmith sees him rushing and tells him, "Hey, you'll get to your school in plenty of time." Franz just thinks the guy is messing with him, but is actually the first sign that today is not a normal day.
And when he gets to the school, the difference is just, wow, it's stark. Usually the school is buzzing with noise, a great bustle as he calls it. You can hear it from the street. But today, it is totally still, as quiet as a Sunday morning. For a kid who is planning to sneak into class late, this is bad news. There's no noise to cover his entrance. This silence is just creepy. It's unsettling.
And it gets even weirder when he walks inside. His teacher, Monsieur Hamel, is wearing his absolute finest clothes. We're talking his fancy green coat, frilled shirt, the whole deal. This is the outfit he only breaks out for inspection days or when prizes are given out. And then Franz looks at the back of the room. Those benches are normally empty, but today they're filled with the old folks from the village. And they're all just sitting there, looking incredibly serious and sad.
All right, so this is the moment. M. Hamel gets up, and in this very calm, very serious voice, he finally explains what's going on. He solves the mystery of the quiet school, his fancy clothes, and the village elders in the back.
He tells them, "My children, this is the last lesson I shall give you. An order has come from Berlin. From this day forward, only German is to be taught in the schools of Alsace and Lorraine. This is it, their very last lesson in French. Ever."
Can you even imagine? For Franz, those words are like a thunderclap. It's a total shock. And in that one instant, it all clicks. The crowd at the bulletin board, the strange silence, all of it. Everything he knew just ended, right there, in a single sentence.
And just like that, everything changes for Franz. He's hit with this wave of regret for all the lessons he skipped, all the time he wasted. Suddenly, those books he used to complain about, the ones that were such a nuisance, now they're like old friends he can't bear to lose. And he finally gets it. He understands why M. Hamel is all dressed up and why the villagers are there. They're paying their respects, not just to a teacher, but to a whole way of life that's being taken away from them.
So the last lesson officially begins. And you'd think M. Hamel would be angry with Franz for not knowing his participles, but he's not. Not at all. Instead, he uses this last class to talk about something bigger. How everyone, in their own way, is responsible for what's been lost.
He points out that they all have things to reproach themselves with. The students for always thinking, "Oh, I'll learn it tomorrow."
The parents for sending their kids to work on the farm or in the mills instead of to school. And he even blames himself for sending the kids to water his flowers or giving them a day off when he wanted to go fishing. The point is, they all took their language for granted.
And this leads to probably the most powerful line in the whole story. M. Hamel tells them that when a people are enslaved, as long as they hold on to their language, it's like they have the key to their own prison. It's more than just words, you see. It's their identity. It's their connection to who they are. It is the one thing their conquerors can't easily take.
There's actually a term for what's happening here. It's called linguistic chauvinism. It's this belief that one language is superior to others, and it often leads to the powerful imposing their language on the conquered. It's an act of dominance, a way to try and erase the identity of a whole group of people.
So as the lesson goes on, Franz is sitting there, and he hears the pigeons cooing on the roof. And he has this thought that is so simple but so incredibly profound. He wonders to himself, will they make them sing in German, even the pigeons? It just perfectly captures the absurdity and the cruelty of it all. Can you really force nature, force a culture to change its very voice?
And so the final lesson continues. But now there's this incredible focus in the room. Everyone, even the youngest kids, is working so hard, hanging on every word. And M. Hamel is just sitting there, watching them all, almost as if he's trying to memorize the site of his classroom, a place he's been for his entire life.
And think about this. 40 years of faithful service. That's M. Hamel's entire career, his life's work, teaching the French language in this very school. And it's all coming to an end, right here, in this one last hour. You can just feel the weight of those 4 decades hanging in the air.
And then it happens. The moment they've all been dreading. The church clock strikes 12. Time's up. The last lesson in French is finished. And at that exact same moment, another sound cuts through the air. The trumpets of the Prussian soldiers, returning from their drills. It's the sound of the new reality, the sound of the occupation, announcing that the old world is gone and the new one has officially begun.
M. Hamel stands up. He looks pale, and to Franz, he seems taller than he's ever been. He opens his mouth to say something, but he can't. The words won't come out. He's just too choked up with emotion. So instead, he turns to the blackboard, picks up a piece of chalk, and with every ounce of strength he has, he writes 2 words, Vive la France, long live France. And that is his final lesson, a silent, powerful, heartbreaking act of defiance. When he can no longer speak, he lets the language speak for him.
And that really brings us right back to where we started. This story, the last lesson, it forces us to think about a loss that's almost unimaginable. It makes you ask yourself, what are the words, the jokes, the songs, the stories that make up your world? If your language was taken away tomorrow, what would you miss the most? What part of you would be gone forever?